Hi, I'm Macy, a registered dietitian, and I'm here today on a beautiful dairy farm in Corcoran, Minnesota. We are here celebrating June National Dairy Month in the heart of the dairy industry. We will be learning a little bit more about the day-to-day happenings on a dairy farm and learning more about what it takes to get dairy foods from farm to grocery store. We'll also be covering a variety of topics like animal care, sustainability, and some of the innovative technologies that are shaping the future of farming. Plus, we'll uncover the surprising benefits of cow cuddling on mental health, and I have some fun dairy trivia that I'll be dropping in throughout, so make sure to let me know how many you get right in the comments at the end. With that, I'm here with Quincy today. Quincy, thank you so much for being here and being here to share your knowledge and your dairy farm with us today.
I'm very excited, and as you can tell, the cows are excited too. Okay,
Yes,
what are
I
you
would
doing?
love to start out with hearing just a little bit more about your dairy story, maybe the history of this farm, anything that you'd like to share to introduce.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm a fourth generation farmer and third generation on this farm. So the original family homestead is down the road a little ways. And then my grandpa, when he came back from the service, he wanted to start his own farm. He drove down the road a little ways, and this one was for sale. So he bought it, started with 20 cows and a horse, and just milking in a pail, with pails, bringing it to the bulk tank. He could milk 3 at a time. As the family grew, they grew the herd to about 50 cows. And we milked 50 cows when I was a kid growing up, and we just had different units that we would bring from cow to cow. But as the family grew, the economy grew, we kind of had to grow as well. And so then we started to increase the herd, and we built this barn in 2016, and then we moved the cows into this barn, still milking in the old barn that was built in 1912. We grew our herd to 120, and that's kind of where we'll stay. We won't get any bigger than that. But we grew our herd. We were still milking in that barn. That barn could hold 46 cows, so we milked in about 2.5 shifts. It took 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours at night. So it took a long time, and it was just my dad and I and a few siblings when they could help. So in 2021, we purchased robots to have the robots be milking the cows, which saves 6 hours of our workday, which is a lot. It really helps. Yes. And you can see the cows. They enjoy them too. They're very chill. They love their environment. They're the stars of the show.
Oh, for sure.
So
that's why we're here today.
Yeah. My job as a farmer is literally just to spoil them, make sure their needs are met, and they let me know when they need something.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. I always think it's so interesting to hear about kind of the deep background and history of farms and kind of where they've started and where they've grown. So that's awesome. And I'd love to jump into animal care because I think that's a really important topic that a lot of people care about. People like to know that the food that they're consuming is coming from animals that are treated well. So can you talk a little bit just about how you care for the cows here and what goes into that on the day-to-day?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, a farmer's main job really is just to spoil the cows because happy cows are healthy cows, and only healthy cows make milk. So the cows there's certain needs and whatnot, but our job is to kind of fulfill those needs before they even realize they have them. So we're here to clean every day. Every day I start my day by making sure everyone's fed. Cleaning, making sure it's a calm environment. You can tell no one's mooing right now or anything. So we want it to be
how peaceful it was in here.
Yeah, and we had a field trip one time, and one of the high schoolers was like, "I thought I'd hear more mooing on a farm," and it's like, well, it's actually a good thing if you don't hear a lot of mooing because they'll moo when they need to tell you something's up. So yes, exactly. So their health is our main focus always, and we just want to make sure that they're fed what they need to be fed. We work with a dietitian for the cows to know everything that they're getting, everything that they need. Yes. We want to make sure that the robots are clean, they're functioning properly, that they're open for the cows to be able to milk whenever they want, that their bedding is all dry and clean. So it's really, we're just trying to create just an atmosphere of peace and calm around them because we don't want them stressed at all. and with being not stressed, they can just focus on themselves, really. I mean, they just live their lives, they live their days, they milk whenever they want, they eat whenever they want, they socialize with each other, and we're just kind of here, making sure everything's getting done.
Met, yes.
Yeah, and they're not, they don't have to worry about anything. They don't have to worry about, you know, when their next meal is, or they don't have to worry about cleaning their room, you know, they're just, everything is there for them. And so that's my job, is just to spoil them, make sure that they're happy and healthy. So.
Well, I love that, because I know later we're going to be talking about how cows can help humans de-stress. So it's great to hear everything that you're doing to help your cows stay stress-free, because they clearly are just relaxed and happy living life. What about, you mentioned a little bit about their dietitian. Can you talk a little bit about their food, their diet?
Yeah, so cows are picky eaters. They like sweet stuff, just like a lot of us. Just like me, I should say. I have a huge sweet tooth. But so we actually have a robot that will mix up all of the feed. It mixes it all up for them so that every bite they take is a full nutritious meal for them. So they're not sorting through the feed, that they get their fiber, that they get their protein, they get their energy and the sweet stuff. But we feed them, we grow our own alfalfa and corn and oats. And then we will also purchase a soybean mix to add extra protein to their diet. So if they're milking, they'll get alfalfa because they're producing milk, which has calcium in it. They need a lot more of that in their body. When they're pregnant, they get grassy or hay, and we change up their diet a little bit to focus more on being pregnant, feeding the baby and everything. Whereas when they're milking, they're just they're like working. And so they need a little bit more energy in that way.
That makes sense.
And so it's very important to balance their diet, just because they can get a lot of health issues if we're not. And so with our robot, with our nutritionist, we take samples of the feed throughout the year, because the nutrition might change. And we're just always balancing the ration, making sure it's everything that they need. And one thing with the milking robots that really helps, that's changed a lot in the way we've been farming, is so we harvest hay about 3 to 4 times a year. And when you were milking cows, since it was just us, we would have to, you get the hay ready, but the hay was drying throughout the morning, and then it would be ready about 3 or 4 o'clock. But then by 4:30, we were always milking cows. So we had to stop harvesting hay and then go and milk the cows for 3 hours. But if rain was coming or something, then that would keep us from going back out into the fields. And then it might take a day or two till we can go into the fields. And by then, it's losing its value in nutrition. And so with the robots, we're not stopping to milk the cows. They're milking all the time, and we can just head out and we can harvest all the hay when we need. We can beat the rain, but then we're harvesting the plant when it needs to be harvested, so it's holding all the nutrients for the cows, and it doesn't lose that. It doesn't get old and lose that. So that's something that we've really enjoyed with having the robots, is getting better quality feed for the cows.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they like it too.
Well, that's awesome. I thought it was so interesting when I first learned that, like, how much goes into their diet and how calculated it is. Like you said, it changes as their needs change. So I just think that's an interesting fact.
Yeah, and they have their 4 compartments in their stomach, and each compartment does something. And so the feed that they have plays different roles for that. And maybe we'll talk about it later, but their collars are like Fitbits, and it tells me instead of their movements like it does for humans, it's how much they're eating and how much they're ruminating, which is when they're laying down and chewing their cud.
That's awesome.
Which is part of their health. And so their rumen is always needing to be moving, and that's part of the hay that we give them and whatnot, and the silage. And so all of that plays a role. If their stomach isn't getting what it needs, then their health can decline really quickly. So it's important to have all of that.
Definitely. And you alluded to, we need healthy cows to produce milk. I'm sure everyone's heard happy cows produce more milk. Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
for sure. Yep. If they're stressed, they're not going to actually milk. If a cow is stressed, she just won't let down her milk. And so only happy cows produce happy milk, or healthy milk. So yeah, very true.
Awesome. All right. Well, I have my first trivia question for the day. Cows can lie down for up to 14 hours a day. True or false? Give everyone a second to think of your answer. And the answer is true. All right. So let's move on to next topic, sustainability. Yes. I know right now this is a really hot topic. I think it will continue to be. Can you talk about some of the things that you incorporate in your farm to make sure that it is sustainable, environmentally friendly?
Yeah, I think with this whole building process that we've been going through in the past few years, we've implemented a lot of things because agriculture in general, not just dairy, is always looking for ways to be more sustainable because we really care about the land and the animals. A lot of farms are generational, and so you want to be able to have the land available for generations. We really, really care about the land and the environment that we live in because we live in it and we need it. We live off of it. And so I think we've implemented a few areas maybe I'll touch on. The first, there's a pit in the center of our barn, and we have all of our manure goes into the pit, and then we have it stored actually out back in a big slurry store. And twice a year we'll use that to fertilize our fields. So that's what we use. We use our own manure to fertilize our fields. So everything we plant goes to feeding the cows, they poop it out, and it goes straight back out to the land. And so it's really rich in nutrients for the soil. The soil really appreciates that, and we get really great crops out of it. We also rotate our crops, so you're not pulling out all of the nutrients in the soil from one plant. So we rotate our crops. I think something that we've been working on with reducing the electrical use on the farm is when we built this barn, we put up curtains on this side and 17 fans on that side, and they run on variable speed, and they're connected to a thermostat. So the curtains will move up and down depending on the temperature, and the fans will change their speed depending on the temperature. And so even if you're cutting back down like 20% of them running, you're saving 80% of the electrical use. So our bill has gone way down. And so in like an older barn, even in that barn, we just have 2 fans. If it's colder, you shut a fan off, but the other one is still running at 100%. So this way we're not shutting off a few fans and leaving some at 100%. They're all just running at the same speed, but reducing the amount of electrical use that they need. As well as for our milk, a cow's body temperature is 101 degrees. And so the milk comes out at 101 degrees. And we need to cool it to like below 40, 42 really fast. And so what we do, and a lot of farms do this, and even different plants when they're cooling or warming up milk, when the milk is getting pumped from the robot to the bulk tank that holds our milk, it's going through a pipeline, but then it goes through a plate cooler, and when the cows are drinking, the well water is going through the plate cooler in the opposite direction, and so the cold water and the warm milk passing each other, that brings down the temperature considerably, probably from like 100 degrees, I don't know, to maybe 60 or 50 degrees. So the bulk tank is only doing minimum work. And so it's stirring the milk. We need to keep it stirring, but we're not running the bulk tank at mass capacity just because the cows are milking all the time. There's always milk going in it, but it doesn't have to run all day. It's just running as it feels that it needs to as the temperature rises. But then the cows also get warm milk, and even on a hot day they like the warm milk, and so they'll drink more of that water, and that keeps them healthy. And so it kind of plays a role with helping the cows, but also helping the milk cool down quite a bit. Yeah. So I don't know, those are some ways. I'm sure you can think of more.
Well, yeah, well that's a lot, and I think it's so interesting to hear. Like I said, I know a lot of people care about this topic. It's super important, and you're clearly doing a lot. Like you said, you want this farm to run for generations more to come, so of course you're going to take care of what you have here. Sounds like you're doing a fabulous job. And so I would love to next hear more and see more about the robotic milking systems that you've been talking about. So we are going to head over there and get a sneak peek at that next. All right, so I'm super excited to hear about this robotic milking system. Can you tell us more about how it works?
Yeah, so it's just we have 2 stations that are open 24/7, so even at night that the cows can go in and milk whenever they want. They get a little treat when they're at the robot, and it's just another like corn soybean mix. So some of them go because they want the treat, and we'll have some circle it all day long, and then some go because they really want to get milked. And so the cows mainly milk themselves about 3 to 4 times a day.
Okay.
They have their own routine when they want to go, and a boss cow will maybe push herself up more and go right away in the morning, but a timid cow will maybe just hang around or sit in a stall and keep an eye on the robot and kind of go whenever no one else is around. But you can see some of them are waiting. The cows want to be milked. They are choosing when they want to milk. And the milking robots are amazing. They just tell us so much about the cows. When they walk in, they're walking in actually on a scale, and so it helps us to monitor their weight. If they're losing a lot of weight, I'll actually get a notification on my phone and just let me know that I need to look at the cow. So it also helps us to monitor like the quality of the milk too. If it doesn't like the quality of the milk, it'll actually just dump it into the sewer. And so it really helps us to monitor how well the cows are doing just for their own health and for the quality of the milk. And if a cow isn't doing well, it'll send me notifications, and I can actually have it go into a hospital pen. And in the hospital pen, they can eat, they can drink, they have their own space to kind of heal up, but then they can also milk themselves as well. And so the robots do so much for the cows, and we'll, if you see a little bit, there's a little like orange on their udder afterwards. We spray an iodine and a moisturizer mixture for the cows as a disinfectant, but also as a moisturizer, which is super important, especially in the winter time.
Oh yeah, when it's all dry.
Yes, exactly. So the milking robots are fairly new. We installed them in 2021.
Okay.
And so it took cows are very, very routine animals. They thrive off of routine, and so they weren't very happy at first, just because we used to send them through that garage door, and they were all waiting there to be milked, and we still had to train them to walk through the robots and everything, and they got the hang of it very, very quickly. But now they all know how to milk through the robot. If there's a new mama who hasn't had a first calf yet, a lot of times, like 3 weeks prior to having their first calf, we'll have them in here living with the cows. They get to know the environment, they get used to the food, and then I'll walk them through the robot, and the robot will feed them, but it'll also pretend milk them. It'll move around and make the same noises. So then they get used to it. So once they do have a calf, they're able to milk and they're calm. They're not stressed out about it because they're already familiar with it. So it's a really great setup for us because we're a small family farm. Milking used to take us 6 hours, which is a huge chunk of your day.
Oh, yeah.
And it saves a lot of back work. We were in a stanchion setup, so we were bending down and lifting and everything all the time. So it saves our knees, it saves our back, but the cows really enjoy it too, and we're able to focus more on cow health, getting the best plants we can get for their nutrition, maintenance for everything. Like, we have time to do more things now, and you can tell it's a peaceful environment because the cows don't feel like they have any needs. The food's always there, their fresh water's there, they can milk whenever they want. They do have a favorite robot, so say a robot might not be working or something, instead of going to the second robot, they'll actually stand and wait at the one robot that's their favorite, and they'll just moo at me until I get it up and running
like
again.
You said, they like the routine.
Yeah, they do. So I'm like, there is another robot you can use. But
Get a cow, I'm just curious, that is more hesitant as you're teaching them. You mentioned you kind of teach them, you give them treats, incentive. Do you ever get a cow that's a little more hesitant or doesn't want to go in there when they're first learning about it?
They are definitely hesitant. The shyer ones, if they're a curious one, they might be like, ooh, what's this?
Yeah,
and then go in. A shyer one might take 3 or 4 times walking through to be comfortable with it. They like the feed that they get there, but the noises will scare them. And in the robot room, they each have a room that has like their pump and everything in it. and I'll always keep the light off because light reflection can startle them and whatnot, and so we keep the lights off. And it might take a few times for them to get used to it. It usually takes about 4 times for them to be like, okay, I'm comfortable with this, I know what's going on. The first time after calving, when they're milking, when it actually goes underneath them, that sometimes gets them nervous, unless they're already used to their calf being underneath them. Sometimes their calves can nurse, sometimes they don't if the calf isn't nursing or something. So the first time it goes underneath them, that makes them nervous, but they get pretty used to it fast. So, and then it just becomes a part of their day.
Awesome. Well, I just think that's so cool. And we just saw your robotic feeding system come through a minute ago. Will you talk a little bit about that? I think that's so cool.
Yeah, definitely. So if I say she, we called her Alice from day one. The first day she was here, we named her Alice after Alice Nelson from the Brady Bunch, because she's our cook for the cows. So she's got her own kitchen in another barn. She feeds the cows about 12 times a day. But the cool thing about Alice is she's a kind of a small mixing bowl on wheels. And so she mixes up all the feed for the cows, but she only mixes up what they need at that moment. If they don't have a huge pile of feed in front of them, they have what they need, and then within like 45 minutes, she'll come back and she scans the level of feed that's in front of them. So there's a laser on her, and she scans how high their food is. And if it's lower than a certain amount, she goes back and fills up for them. But if it's higher than what we need, then she just charges, and then she'll scan them again before feeding them. So she's kind of always pushing the food in front of them, because cows tend to push the food out. So she pushes the food, but then she's reading how much is there. So then she knows when to go back and fill up. And so that way we don't have any waste feed. So the cows just get what they need, they clean it all up, and then Alice will put more in front of them. And there's usually always a little bit of hay, so they're not like starving or anything. It's not like there's zero feed there, but it gives them enough time to finish up everything, and then they'll get a fresh batch of feed. So then every time she feeds, it's a full meal. They're not picking out stuff and just sweeping in the hay. They're getting a fresh meal every single time. So she saves too quite a bit of work. It's probably about like 4-ish hours or 5-ish hours of work every day. So really helpful. And she is the third one in the US. So she's kind of the older style. I think Laley's come out with newer models now, but it's been interesting figuring out all the kinks and everything with her, especially in winter time. But
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, cool. I see both of these robotic systems have probably really helped with efficiency.
Yes.
And how do they play into overall costs of the
they're definitely, the milking robots are definitely quite a bit. But you're saving on, we're too small to hire. We weren't able really to hire anybody. When you hire, you have to provide medical and all of that. And so you can get a loan on robots. And so that is always very helpful. I think you're a little bit more efficient on feed. That helps us to be more efficient. We're not wasting feed. We're feeding them what they need. So that also helps us with costs. And then we were milking 2 times a day. Some farms milk 3 times a day, but when a cow is milking 3 to 4 times a day, they're actually producing more milk, which helps kind of offset the cost, because they're producing more. They're milking when they want, but then that's helping them. Their body naturally just produces a little bit more the more they're milking.
I think these cows are really liking me today. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I'd like to talk about some of the food that shoppers might see in the store.
Yeah.
So I always think it's interesting to hear about the process of collecting milk from a cow and then how it gets to a grocery store.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Or, for example, how long a shopper can expect to wait from when milk is collected to when they're seeing it?
Definitely. I think that's a super cool thing about the dairy community, is that it's from farm to table within 48 hours.
Wow.
So, or to the shelves within 48 hours. So I just think that's really neat, that it's a very fast, it's very fresh.
Yes, and I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, and it's another unique thing about it is that it isn't touched by human hands at all. It goes straight from the cow, through the pipeline to our tank, where it's cooled and stirred, and then our tanker will pick it up, and then he brings it to the creamery where it goes through whatever, depending on your creamery. Ours goes to Ellsworth Creamery in Ellsworth, Wisconsin, so it's made into cheese curds. So it'll go through pasteurization and everything, and then just the cheese making process to make it into curds, which I know Coburn's carries, so that's exciting.
Yes. Awesome.
But
you talked about pasteurization. So as a dietitian, I get asked about that often, especially right now. It's kind of a hot topic.
Yeah, it is a hot topic.
Yes. Can you talk about what it is, why it's done, if it's good for us?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a hot topic because people are worried about the nutrition in their food, and pasteurization doesn't change the nutritional value of the milk at all. Milk is a superfood. I could talk all day about milk because it's so amazing what is actually inside, what's in dairy. There's so many vitamins, so many of the minerals, so many essential things that we need every day that you might have to eat a lot of other things and it's just in milk. So I think it's such an amazing food, and pasteurization doesn't take away from that. It's more for food safety because they're picking, you're coming from all over, and everybody's system, every human being's system is so different, and it just kind of makes it available for everyone. It just makes sure that it's safe, and I think it's an important process because it just makes it available and that everyone's going to be okay type of thing, so.
I think it's important for people to know, like you said, that it's making it safe to eat for everyone, and it's just as nutritious. I think that's a misconception that's out there.
Yeah, it doesn't take away anything from the milk. And like I said, our robots, if it doesn't like the quality of the milk, it will dump it. I think another hot topic too, because you see on advertisements everywhere about antibiotics, if it's antibiotic free or not. But I think something that's super important to know is that all food is antibiotic free. There's literally 0 antibiotics in food. We wouldn't be able to dairy if we put antibiotics in our food. And so, but we also care about our cows. Antibiotics is a last resort when it comes to animal welfare. We don't just give it to anybody. It's pretty rare. We might use it just a few times a year, but it's mainly when it's a cow's quality of life they don't have a very great quality of life, or they're really sick. We've tried giving them extra vitamins. We've tried giving them a different diet, and we'll give them antibiotics. But if we do give them antibiotics, we dump that milk, and so we're not selling it. And the robots actually go through a hot wash after that cow's gone through. So there's nothing in the pipeline. It won't go to the next cow or anything. There's 0 residue there.
Thank you for addressing that, because like you said, I think that is another hot topic and another misconception that I think is interesting to learn more about. So.
And our testing kits, so say we give a cow antibiotics, we will test their milk because the antibiotic eventually will leave their body. It'll leave their system and then it can go back in the tank. The test we use is such a strong test that it will detect like a drop of antibiotics in a swimming pool. So if we're testing one cow, it's definitely a very heavy duty test. So, and it's all of our milk there's samples taken at the farm, samples taken at the creamery. It's tested throughout the whole process. So it's very safe. Never have to worry about antibiotics being in the milk. So, yeah.
Yes. All right. And going back to some of the products that you guys produce, what's your most popular product?
So our milk all goes into cheese curds, sorry. So I definitely love cheese. I'm a huge sweet tooth. I love ice cream. I would love eventually someday to start making ice cream off of the farm and selling homestead ice cream. That would be amazing. But I think it's the one thing about dairy is that it's so versatile. It's everywhere. So if you have a sweet tooth, if you want it for breakfast, you want it as a snack, I just think that's really amazing, the amazing part of dairy. So.
For sure. And are there any innovations in dairy nutrition that you're excited about that are coming up?
I just think maybe getting dairy as something that's like anyone can have. Like they have the lactose-free options, which I think is amazing. I know a lot of people who use that, And that's just a super cool thing. Like you can still drink a glass of milk or a chocolate milk, which is so refreshing, but it can be your lactose-free option.
Or my favorite Greek yogurt, I always like to tell people it's a great option because for people who might have a little more of a sensitive stomach, Greek yogurt actually has less lactose than regular yogurt, and the probiotics help digest that lactose, so it can be a good option for people who may be a little more sensitive, so definitely options out there.
Yeah, I think for sure. And all the probiotics stuff that they have out there and everything, it's amazing all the different products that they have.
Yes. Awesome. All right, well, I have another trivia question here. Actually, I have two. So if you were listening, the answer was revealed, but true or false, cows can choose when to be milked with robotic milking systems. And the answer to that is true. And then my next question is, lactose-free milk has the same nutrients as regular milk, true or false? And the answer to that is also true. So next up, I'm so excited, we're going to go do some cow cuddling and learn about the surprising benefits of cow cuddling on mental well-being. So we will meet you over there. All right, and so on to what I'm super excited about, cow cuddling. I've heard of cow cuddling as a new wellness trend. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I think for us, we've heard about other states doing it. I know I've heard of places in California or Hawaii, and we actually heard from another dairy farmer in New York that was doing it, and they had just opened up another pen in their barn. And a lot of people would come and snuggle the cows. Kind of like, I think, when people do puppy yoga or something like that, just another activity that's calming. And we thought, we're so close to the cities, that would be a fun way to be able to open up our farm to our community and everyone, and just kind of show our lifestyle, because there's so much, I feel like, development around, and so many people that don't know us, and so we wanted to be able to open up our doors for others to come meet us and meet the cows. And there's a lot of people, I don't know, everyone that comes tells me that cows are their favorite animals. Yes. And so, and I love to hear that.
How can you not love cows?
Exactly, I know. And so I love, we get a lot of young adults or couples coming for a date night, and they'll just come in here. And it's a very calming environment. We just play music in the background. You can tell everyone else, it's just a quiet barn, quiet place to be, and you can just sit with the cows, you can groom them. Sometimes the cows, if they're having, if they're a little bit more energetic, they might try to eat your clothes or something, but a lot of times they calm down, they're just laying there. I come in and I love, it's kind of like maybe a mom when their kid does something exciting. I love, it just melts my heart when I come in here and someone's just like laying next to the cow, or their head's in the calf's head is in their lap or something, and it's just super sweet, just melts my heart. And we've been having a lot of fun with it lately.
Oh, I love it. If I was you, I'd be cow cuddling every day.
Yes. Well, I kind of do. Yeah. A lot of times it's when I'm doing chores and the cows will just kind of come up for a snuggle or something. I have a handful that every day they need a hug, and so when I'm cleaning or something, they'll just kind of come up and I'll give them a snuggle or something. But it's calming for me too. Yeah. Even when I'm setting up and I'm waiting for someone to arrive, I'll just sit in there and I'm just like, oh, this is so peaceful. It's just so chill. So, yeah.
And for anyone who's interested in maybe doing some cow cuddling, will you tell us a little bit about your services, how people can get connected with that?
Yes, definitely. So our company is Curious Cows and Company, but you can find us as CuriousCowsandCo.com. And we just provide some cuddling appointments plus tours. So you can come in as an individual or as a couple, and you pay by the half hour. Or you can come in as a big group, and that's just kind of one solid price. If you can come in as a group of 8 or whatever you want, and then you can add $5 onto your ticket and tour the farm too, so that you can meet not only the calves but the cows. You can see the robots, kind of everything that we've seen today, and you can ask whatever questions. We've heard it all, so you can ask any question you have about the dairy community, about the cow's life, about a calf's life. And we just really love to meet everyone everyone in the area and be able to share. I love what I do so much, and I just have such a joy in being able to share that and being able to share the cows, because they bring me so much joy that I love to see when people come and they tell me, oh, this was so worth it, or the calf reaches out and licks them and they're like, if that's all that happens today, that's the best thing. You know, like that to me is just so awesome to hear that, and it's such a joy to be able to share that with the community.
Yes, and I can tell, I can just hear your passion, and I so appreciate you showing me around today and for everything that you do to feed our community. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh,
for that.
thank you. It's a joy. I love working with the cows every day.
Yes, it's amazing what you do here. Do you have any closing remarks?
Well, thank you for being here today.
Yes,
it's always
of course,
super
it's a
fun to be able to share, and I think I just always love to be able to share that I love being a farmer. I love being able to be with the cows every single day, truly deeply care for them and care for the community, and I love to be able to be part of, you know, the food industry. Kind of your farmers are the boots on the ground type of people, and I love to be able to share that, especially when there's so much information out there. I love to be, when people ask questions and are curious about the dairy industry and the community and whatnot. And we love what we do. We love our cows. Our motto for Curious Cows is curious cows are happy cows, and that's why our cows are curious, because they're happy. It's a quiet barn, and it's something we take pride in, and we love to be able to be a part of such an awesome community that, you know, we have the cows and it's create the milk and everything, and it's such a important part of, I think, growth in the world, and it's such an honor to be a part of that. And so thank you for being here today and letting us share our story.
Yes, thank you again, Quincy. And a special thank you to Undeniably Dairy for making today possible. And for everyone who has tuned in today, thank you so much for joining in. And don't forget to stop by your local store and pick up your favorite dairy products in honor of all of our local farmers for June National Dairy Month. Thank you, and see you next time.